Okay, so why do we procrastinate? Well, it's simple. The human mind revolves around pleasure and avoids discomfort. Unfortunately, the things that get us further in life are uncomfortable, and the things that don't are pleasurable. I like to think of procrastination as a form of stress relief. Let's say you have an important essay due later this week. The rational part of your brain knows that you have to work on it right now if you want to submit it in time. But after a long day of getting harassed in school and dealing with all sorts of problems, you're so physically and mentally drained that you feel like you deserve to procrastinate. There's no way I'm going to do all that work. I've been through enough already. And the same thing happens tomorrow and the next day, on and on until it becomes the last minute and you finally do the essay. It wasn't a good essay, but it was enough. It worked out. And because it worked out, you continue to do this every single time for all the essays you get assigned. But here's the problem. If you're going to do the essay anyway, why do it at the very last minute and increase the amount of time you have to think about it? Realistically, you should be doing it as fast as possible to minimize the amount of stress released from the deadline approaching. You see, an experienced procrastinator, probably you by the way, knows that the amount of time remaining before an assignment is due is usually inversely proportional to the amount of time you spend on it. For some, it may look like this, and for others, it may look like this. But what it should look like is this. This is the ideal graph for if we want to live the least stressful life. But unfortunately, us procrastinators are incapable of doing it like this, and instead, we rely on what I like to call the panic zone. The panic zone is the short period right before the deadline where we feel the most motivated to do the task, because it's when we absolutely have to do it. Like when you realize that you have a 1,000-word essay due in an hour and you've made no progress. So your brain suddenly goes hyper-focus mode and finishes it in the remaining time. So the question is, how do we exploit this hyper-focus mode so that it sticks with us whenever we need it, instead of just when the deadline is close? Well, I've always thought that was impossible, until one day I finally found the solution. So, as someone who used to speedrun a lot of video games, I was always curious on how I could apply various speedrunning concepts to real life to optimize my time. Like, if speedrunners could use all these crazy strategies to beat games as fast as possible without wasting a second, why can't I do that in real life too? And that's when it hit me. If I want to get all my tasks done without procrastinating for even a second, I need to treat work like speedrunning. And so do you. Next time you get an assignment that's due later this week and you want to rid it from your life ASAP, try this method. First, sit down straight on your desk with your eyes fixated on whatever it is you need to do. Next, get rid of all distractions near you, whether it's your phone, laptop, cat, anything that is irrelevant to your work. Next, get on a pair of headphones and play some fast-paced instrumental music. I personally like classical, techno, or hardstyle depending on my mood. Finally, get a timer, set it for 1 hour, and begin. For this entire time period, you need to act as if you are in the grand finals of a speedrunning tournament. Do the work like your life depends on it. Challenge yourself to finish a task within this 1 hour, and act like every time you procrastinate, you are losing time. Don't get what's called a suboptimal run. You need to optimize every second you are spending for this whole hour. If you ever get the temptation to procrastinate, just tell yourself that you're going to get all the freedom to do whatever you want after you finish this 1 hour of work. It's going to feel painful, but that's what makes it worth doing right now in the first place. The first 5 minutes are probably going to be the hardest, but as you go on, you'll start to immerse in your task more and more. And because the timer is constantly ticking as you work, you're going to feel pressured to do it within the 1 hour, mimicking the panic zone that you get right before a deadline. Eventually, you'll enter what's called a flow state. And once you're in this flow state, there's nothing stopping you. You are an academic weapon. As long as you're in the flow state and have no distractions, you're going to get work done at triple the speed that you normally do without even feeling like you're putting in effort. And as time ticks and the 1 hour mark comes closer and closer, you're going to feel more and more motivated to finish, until finally, you're done. That's it. You just finished an assignment that was originally supposed to take a week in 1 hour. You're now free to do whatever you want and brag to everyone else that you're ahead of them. Now, just repeat this process for every task that you have, and I kid you not, you're going to start enjoying your assignments. When I first tried this method, I realized that I was experiencing joy in the same way as when I speedran video games. That feeling of fighting against the clock and doing everything as fast as possible gave me this dopamine rush that I just can't describe. Don't believe me? Go try it yourself. To prove that you've learned something from this video, click off right now and apply this to your own tasks, whether it's a 1,000-word essay or a mountain of emails that you have to reply to. Trust me, you're never going to worry about procrastination again after using this method.